Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this maple tree. So to start off with, these are materials we're going to need in no exact quantities I should add. Um, so we're going to start off here with the trunk, and the trick with this is do not make it super big. Now I know that if you want a big tree, you probably want a big trunk. I would recommend starting off, if this is your first time making this sort of tree, start with a small trunk because too big of a trunk it's not gonna look great and it's just a lot harder to work with. Take my word on this, I've made that mistake many times before. So at a certain point I actually just taper off into one block chunk, and you can see I'm actually using these fence posts and stairs and slabs in order to get the desired shape. So as far as branches go, I uh, pick a random block around here. I tend to go in the half, what I call the half rule. I don't know what it's actually called. That is where every time you have a branch, it's going to every time it splits off, it's going to half in size. So it tends to go full block to slab to fence gate or wall to fence gate, depending on what block it is you're using. So, trying to imitate that a little bit here. Not the biggest fan of this right now, but the nice thing about trees is there's no set shape to them, so you can mess up a little bit and nobody's really gonna know. So, just going to split this up a little bit, and then tag on some fence gates. And they don't have to be quite as wide as you might think, because a lot of where tree gets its actual like branch size from is actually leaves. So it's a pretty spread out branch. I probably might have made this one a bit too spread out, but that's very fine because I can always just change it around a little bit later. So if I wanted to get rid of this part, easy fix. So let's say this is the branch we've decided to go with. We're going to surround it in our leaf blocks for our maple tree. I've chosen mangrove planks, netherrack, and red terracotta, which aren't my choice, I know, but from afar, I think it really gives off the illusion of a nice autumn maple tree. So we're just going to spread this around the ground. And the real trick here is to not make it very full. Um, because you might think that trees look pretty full when you look at them, and they are. But at the same time, if you think about a bird can fly through a tree, and it can't really do that if it's just solid trees. So you gotta make your leaves a little bit spread out, because otherwise it just looks like a block of leaves. And you see, I actually made that mistake over there when I did a different video on this exact same topic. And that is part of the reason I'm making the remake, because I mean that doesn't look too good. I'll be honest, it doesn't look too good. So I've learned a bit more about how to make trees, and so I'm making a remake. So you can see I'm giving it some pretty generous amount of spacing here, and you can definitely go back in and fill it in a bit more afterwards. But I like to leave it pretty loose, at least for when I'm just starting out with the tree. So I'll come back after I've finished leafing up this branch, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've finished up this branch now, and you can see I went very light on the amount of leaves I actually put compared to space. And I will probably need to patch some of this because you can tell this is a bit too open. But I tend to do that a little bit after because I want to get the rest of the branches in and see how they look first before I add too many leaves, because they will tend to like fill it up a little bit. So you can see I'm just going to pick another block to do the next branch. Just another level up. And I'm actually going decently high on this tree. So at the top I am going to have it split branches, and I'll show that in a little bit. But for the second branch I'm just going to do something very similar. Except this time I'm going to have it curve a little bit. Just to kind of show that off a little bit. Because you know, sometimes you just want some curvy branches doing some funky little things. So just, and I suppose slabs are the worst to work with, but can have this kind of like dip down a little bit, go in different directions, all sorts of fun things. Like I said, nature isn't really bound by too much, so I mean, make some random stuff will probably look natural, you know. So that's the fun part of trees. The not fun part is the absurd amount of time it takes in survival to make this. Hence why I make creative tutorials. you survival people can figure it out yourselves, so I hope you have some scaffolding to do. And I don't think the happy gas are gonna be too good for this, so best of luck. I can fly. I have a distinct advantage. So you can see I'm just more or less repeating the exact same process I did over there. And I leave a bunch of gap. You can see they're basically at a 9-degree angle at this point. Because the leaves, they really do help fill it in. If you go over to my completed version, you can see I'm pretty much leaving the 90-degree gap here too. And the leaves just really fill it in nicely. And I'll fill this one in and make a few others, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've filled in 3 more branches here. And you can see it gives a pretty nice, almost circular, kind of ring of leaves. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do this top kind of split part of the branches. So I'm going to have this one be splitting into 2. I think that's pretty much standard. Keep in mind the halves rule. I like to give them this right here. So we're gonna have these somewhat short. I don't need to be super big to fill out the tree. And we're just pretty much doing the same thing that we've done for the other branches, just on top of the tree. It honestly looks a lot more complicated than it is. So just spruce this on up. Actually, mango this on up. Bad. Sorry. So just going to change the leaves of dimensions. And it's something a little bit like that. Maybe have this a bit more vertical. Like it's not super complicated, I wouldn't say. Just tinker around with it until you get it right, and it tends to work out pretty fine. So, the other thing I don't think I mentioned is you can have vertical branches, guys. There's actually quite a bit of trees that do have vertical branches. You have them going up. It's pretty good. So just branch out with fence gates like earlier, and open fence gates for even skinnier branches, which always make place. So then just fill this in like we did earlier, and you've pretty much got a tree. So I'll be right back once I do that. Alright, so I've filled in the top branches here, and you can see our tree is looking pretty close to done. Now there is a few more things that you can do just as touch-up work, and one of them is kind of filling in this gap between the top and middle branches. I say middle, they're really bottom. We don't have a middle layer, do we? But you can see there's quite a bit of gap here, and you definitely want to keep that intact. But at the same time, and I want to go down with our slab because they're a bit smaller here. You don't want that gap to be too super empty, because otherwise you just see the grass on the other side here. So just put a slab or 2 in, and tends to help it out a little bit. And if you want to put maybe a leaf or 2 down close towards the center of your tree, go ahead. Of course you want to stay little bit close to the branches, but it's a block game. We can have some unrealistic bits. So, just fill in the gaps around. And the other thing that I mentioned right near the start of the video actually is if you think your tree looks a bit too hollow, like you've left too many gaps between your leaves, this is the time to fill it in. Once you've gotten all your, dare I say, structural-ish leaves, if you want to fill in like some more gaps, like say I didn't like how open this was to the sky, I can just toss in some planks here and kind of helps fill that gap. So that's really all that's left to do here for the tree. And then you're basically done. You've got what I'd say is a pretty good maple tree, compared to what I gave you guys last time. So hopefully this tutorial helps you out a little bit, and have fun building, guys. See ya.